Today we will discuss CVs in general. So I'll try to share some lessons learned from, many years applying and hiring people. And so I'll share some of the things that I learned, and then I'll go through a few reviews. There were a couple of people who actually sent a few CV for review, so we can go through them and review together, and we will see. Okay, I guess we are good to go. Okay, so let's start by discussing what we're going to focus on. I'm I'm not going to focus on the graphical part. Uh, First, because I'm not the best person to do that. Actually, my CVs in general tend to be very ugly from a graphical point of view. I do my best to make it pretty, but sometimes I look at others and I said, wow, that really, it's really, really nice. Mine usually is not. And because also I would like to focus today more on the content rather than the format. I will, of course, say something if I see a CV which is really, really ugly. But in general, that's not the focus of the discussion. And I will not focus on the English, in the sense that I will not focus on how sentences are written or things like those. I'll focus really on the content. Uh, that said, it's important that the grammar is there, right? So don't make too many mistakes. And it's important that sentences are understandable, right? So people reading it will understand what you mean. But I'm not going to discuss, again, because I'm not the best person to do it. I'm not going to discuss if that's the best way to express that point in English. As long as I can get it, it's good. Uh, that said, before getting into the review, one important thing: who will review your CV? Right? In the meanwhile, I see Lele asking for my CV. I mean, you can look up my profile in LinkedIn. I mean, it's not exactly my CV, but I don't have a very up to date CV at the moment. Most probably, LinkedIn is more up to date than my real CV. But yeah, some days when I have time to update, I'll share it back with all of you. Uh, that said, as I said, when you submit a CV, who will review your CV? This is important because when you write something, you always, and that's true not only for CVs, in general for communication, it is important to keep in mind the audience, right? So who will review your CV? It largely depends on the company and on the setup. But if we are looking at tech companies, especially the large one, uh, you should expect that the first system to look at your CV is an ATS, so an applicant tracking system. Uh, Usually, as far as I am aware, I haven't seen any use of ATS for active filtering. So it's not, I heard rumors, but maybe I'm not sure that there are really companies doing that. I I haven't seen people getting rejected because an ATS system decided to reject them. ATS systems are usually used to extract information from the CV, so it's important that your CV is ATS friendly. Uh, but it's not that the ATS will make a decision if you're going to move forward or not. Or at least I haven't seen in my experience any of these cases, although I heard people mentioning them. So the first step is an ATS. The second is likely to be a recruiter, right? So the recruiter will look at your CV. The recruiter might not be an expert on the position, might not have the technical background, might not have deep standing. I mean, I work with recruiters that were deeply technical and they were able to understand even the most complex acronym you have on your CV. But in general, not all of them are at that level of technical expertise. So it's important that your CV is understandable from someone who doesn't have your same level of understanding of the specific topic or matter, right? Then the third one is likely to be the hiring manager. So you pass the ATS, you pass the recruiter, your CV is forwarded to the hiring manager. The hiring manager will most probably understand everything you have in your CV if your CV uh, is, let's say, a good candidate for the role. So at that point, the hiring manager is most probably going to dig more into the detail and try to understand if what you are saying in your CV is applicable to the specific role. And then, if you move forward with the process, you will start getting into interviews. And so the interviewers will also look at your CV, usually to prepare the interview and to get a sense what to ask, right? So these are the four main uh, audiences that you have to prepare your CV for. Um, and so Frappo, I mean, as usual, I'll try to answer question as they come, or maybe at the end of a section if I'm. But don't don't be afraid. Ask anything, and then I'll figure out how to get back to your question. So Frappo is asking, how often do you suggest updating one's CV? Frappo, I would say, uh, as it depends how much. So there are two cases, right? You're looking for a job, in which case your CV should be up to date. Most probably, if you're still working or doing something while searching for a job, then you might deliver some impactful work that you want to add to your CV. So depending on how often you deliver something important, you update it. And the other thing, we will get to it, you should update it at least a little bit every time you apply to the role. Why I'm saying so is because there is, I mean, updating a CV just to tailor to a specific position could make a large difference. So when you apply, even if those two roles are very similar, they are both project managers or program manager roles, you they might have different requirements. You want to tailor your CV based on the role. It doesn't mean doing a full revamp or the entire CV, but actually maybe tailoring, changing some things based on the role. So I hope, Frappo, I answered your question. But so um, thanks, Kerr. Your English sounds really good. Thanks, Kerr. I still hold my Italian accent, so people uh, usually recognize that I'm Italian, but I've been working with English for the last 10 years. And so I had to improve my English over time. Um, so when you look at your CV, and then we will see some example. But before getting into the example, um, some people usually start with a summary, achievements kind of section at the top. That part is not mandatory. Okay, you can use it if you have something meaningful to say. Don't use it with boilerplate kind of buzzwords. I'm a leader, great communicator. I can deal with, I can deliver under stress. I'm an overachiever and team worker. Right? There are some CVs that really start with this. Right? That part at the top is the first thing everyone will look at. So it's a very precious part of your CV. Either you have something very important to say or remove the section. Let people get into your experience and everything else. Don't just waste their time telling something that doesn't have anything meaningful, right? Which is just buzzwords and boilerplate kind of words, which are not saying much about your uh, um, your contribution. So remember that in general, if you look it up, you will see things that I hardly believe. But there is this thing that recruiters will spend 6 to 8 seconds on each CV. I think it's a little bit tough to do it in 6 to 8 seconds. I mean, I can do 8 seconds review for someone who is very far from what I'm looking for. I can open it, it's no 5 seconds and close it. But for people that are kind of aligned with the requirement, I usually spend at least 1 to 5 minutes, right, uh, to get to get a sense of what the person did and how. But still, 1 minute is not a lot of time, right? Um, on average, people will not Google the terms you have, will not look up what that specific acronym is. They will read it and understand what they understand. And then if there is something that is really, really important, they look it up, right? But they're not going to do 10 Google searches, excuse me, just to get a sense of what you want to say. Uh, what is the most important thing to say are usually numbers, right? I love numbers. I'm a data driven person, but in general, numbers are the most impactful or the easiest way to express your impact. Let me give you an example. I manage a team of 20 program managers responsible for 100 products generating a billion revenues for the company. Now, there is not, I mean, anyone will understand what I've done. Now, you can say, no, that's not enough for this role. Or someone will say, yeah, oh, this is pretty strong. We want to hear more. But even instead, I would have said, I manage large team of program managers, managing a lot of products and generating a lot of revenues, right? You see the difference. And of course, now I'm making the two extreme here. One is very, very rich in numbers, and the other one is nothing and a lot of boilerplate. But I'm saying exactly the same thing. In one way, I'm not quantifying it, right? So this is a big problem because everyone in the work can say, I manage a large team and created a lot of revenues. Not a lot of people can say, I manage a team of 20 and 100 products for billion revenues, right? Uh, and this is not the real example from my CV, it's just a random example. So, what you want to describe in your CV is for each important part, you want people to grasp, to understand the complexity of that work. Don't give it for granted. People might not understand the complexity, the impact of that work, and your contribution. There is a difference between what you did and what the team or the project did, even if you were the one leading the team, right? You did part, you did you had some direct contribution to something which at the end allowed the team to go to Mars. But it's not just your contribution that took the entire team to Mars, right? There is much more. And so sometimes conflating what the team does with what you do generate confusion. In some cases, it's obvious what you did. In some others, is not. So to be on the safe side, assume that people never understand what you did versus what the team did, and try to define. The scope of the team was to do this, which is going to Mars, which was very complex because nobody else ever reached Mars. Easy way to explain the complexity. The impact was that once we landed there, we discovered that humans can potentially, I don't know, we discover water, which might eventually lead to people living on Mars. I was the one building the entire plan, the communication, managing the risk, and then responsible for the ultimate successful launch of the ship, right? So you make clear what the impact, what the complexity, and what your contribution was, right? So easy to understand, even if someone doesn't really know in depth your your topic or your subject, they will understand what you have done. Uh, Let me have a look at question. Oh, for those who wants that, someone else wrote me on Telegram, on the Telegram group as well. Uh, if this is going to be useful, we might have another one in a while for this CV review. So if you haven't done, you can do it for the next time. I'll be sure to post the message both on LinkedIn and on the Telegram group. So join the Telegram group if you're not there. Okay, Randall is asking, sorry, Marco, but if the system will not filter the CV, how someone is declined by the first wave is the recruiter usually? Is the recruiter looking at your CV and just so the ATS is not the formal for staff? Well, at least I haven't experienced that. Maybe there are companies doing it. I'm not saying I can't speak for uh, every single company. I have seen many companies extracting information from your CV using an ATS. So the recruiter would said, okay, let me check. Okay, this is a good candidate. Let's move on to the next, or just looking at the information from the ATS. Oh, this person doesn't have this, and then open the CV and said, oh no, he does. He does, right? He does. So let's move still this to the next steps. Um, yes, as usual, the recording will go on YouTube in the next few days. Um, yeah, so the recruiter will actually decline all the application. Yes, for the first step, yes. At least that's my experience. Then not all of them, the one that are blocked at the first step. Some others will just decline by the hiring manager. Some others will just get declined later as people go through the interviews. Ray, they asked me for my CV. I don't have a very up to date version, polished one, but I might do it for the next live. Um, yeah, I don't have one to show today. I mean, I do have one, but I'm not sure is making a good service by showing it because I haven't updated for a while, and so it might just break some of the recommendation I just gave people, which would not be great. Okay, so the last few things, optimal length. I would say between 1 and 2 pages. Okay, it's okay. I have reviewed good candidates with 3 pages, uh, but usually people with 3, 4 pages. I received once a CV when I was at Kraken for it was for a pretty senior role. It was 21 pages. I'm not joking. It was a CV of 21 pages. This person went, I mean, had almost the charter of all the key projects. Oh, I mean, I'm joking. It was not the charter, but this person went so much in detail on each of the project that it was 21 pages long. So 1 or 2 pages is usually the right size. The challenge start when you get more and more experience. When you get more and more experience, the tendency is I want to be sure everything I've done is reflected in my CV, right? And then start becoming more and more I mean longer and longer, right? And so you need to there are one option is you get things that are more far in time. Most probably if you have 20 years of experience, what you have done as first job after graduating is not very relevant anymore, or in some cases you might just shortening the things that are too far and focusing on the most recent one, which very likely are the one that are expressing at best your ability to work in the position you're applying for. Good. let's other a few other things before getting into the review. I like hyperlinks, so don't add one hyperlink for each bullet point you have in your CV. But for the key projects or for things that might not be um clear in the first place, I work on this important project and you have a website for it, add a link. If the recruiter or the hiring manager are curious, they will just click, see, maybe get additional information about that. Um, it's just the barrier if they have to copy paste it into Google, search it, find the right link, click on it, is much higher than if they have the link in the first place. So don't do it too often because otherwise the noise to information ratio will be very high. If you add it for everything, they will not click everything. Imagine you can get them to click on 3 links. Which are the 3 links you really want to have in your CV, right? And I'm saying 3. If it's 5, sometimes it's 10, it's okay, right? But I'm saying don't put too many of them because otherwise they will just create noises. Uh, other, I just mentioned it earlier. Your CV will go through very likely through an ATS, which will extract some key information, things like tables, graphics, like those fancy table that people use to score their skill level. Also, some graphical representation of their skills, like pie charts, things like those. There's no way an ATS will read. Maybe it's not a big deal because the ATS will not care anyway about those. But in general, try to have a CV which is ATS friendly and never hide important information behind the graph. Right? If there is an important information, be sure that is written in clear text, plain text. That's it. Uh, there are tools, you can Google them, that just check your CV for ATS compatibility. The easiest way is just take your CV, make a PDF, because usually you're going to submit a PDF, just copy paste everything, select all, copy, and throw it into a text, um, into a just plain text document, and you will see that's what the ATS will read. You will be surprised, especially the multi-column CVs. They just get all mixed together. They are completely unreadable. Um, Another important thing: the CV needs to be tailored to the role, right? What does it mean? It means I look, even if I have my very well done CV, I look at the role, be sure there is keywords matching, right? If they ask, you need to have this expertise on this field, be sure that some way in your CV you mention that explicitly, even if you are using synonyms or it looks obvious to you because you are the expert, so you understand that the way you wrote your CV is referring exactly to that skill. The people reading your CV might not be as expert as you, so they will get confused. They will not find that word. They will believe you don't have that skill or that experience, right? So be crystal clear. It's really cheap to just don't do those things like people copy pasting the requirements into their CV and say, I have, and then the requirements. That's really dumb. That's when you see that's yeah, really, but try to put it in context, right? They ask for that skill, take one of your achievements, say, I demonstrating having this skill in this specific project. Now, maybe this is oversimplified, but I guess you got my point, right? Uh, and especially if your CV, if you have your experience can be applied into different contexts, be sure that depending on which context you are applying, you tailor it to that very specific. You tailor it to that specific application. Um, and with this one, I think that those are all the main point I wanted to share before getting into the CV review. Um, oh, a couple more now came to my mind. Soft skills. That's as the summary at the bottom is one of the areas where people can go very wild and do very wrong thing. The don't start listening things that are obvious, right? I am a team worker. If you want to do that and you believe you're exceptional in that, it means I'm not just as a team worker as the others. I'm really good at that, right? Tell people why. Why are you better than the average person on leadership? He said, yeah, I have very strong leadership. Why? Right? What do you have that is exceptional compared to people with similar leadership skill, right? So maybe you can say maybe leadership is not the right area, but negotiation, right? You can, or risk management, you can say, I completed these trainings, right? So you are just giving credits to the fact that you really have that skill. So if you want to say one of those things, be sure that your argument why you're better than the average. Don't say I don't know, I'm very good at working with people. Yeah, good. Welcome to the social world. Um, Try to really explain why you're better than the others. That's the key. If you want to get there, otherwise you can just mention the key things uh, without spending too much time in the soft skill section. Um, yeah, and with this one, let me just have a look to the question we have here. Uh, mm, let's see this. The CV style, Andra is asking, the CV style is the same regardless of which country I'm applying for. Uh, yes, um, but it depends. Let me give you an example. Uh, Currently in Switzerland, companies really like if you put your picture on the CV. They like to see your face. In the US, a photo is a no go. Don't put a photo on your CV if you are applying for a US based company. Uh, don't ask me why. I mean, there are many reasons, and I'm not sure I know the exact reasons. But in general, not that your CV will get discarded because you have a photo or because you don't have a photo, right? It's not uh, a no go or should not be a go no go decision based if you have the right style. But what I wanted to say is that you can, if you know that some stuff is more interesting or less interesting in a specific country, you might decide to customize it a little bit. Uh, for instance, if you apply to a US role and for a US company role and you have already experience uh, working in international companies, the language section might not be very interesting for them because usually they don't care about anything but English and they expect you to know English if you're applying for a role. Other country, other roles, they might appreciate, especially in Europe, because it's a small continent. They can appreciate, and we have a lot of languages. They can appreciate if you can speak many of the languages, right? So, but these are just small things. I would not say that it's must to customize by country. You can do small things if you know, or if you want to save some space, right? If you want, it's getting too long, you want to save some space, you can maybe add or remove this information if you know that the company will not care about those specific information. Oh, it looks like the 21 pages document CV got a lot of interest. Uh, uh, Handra, there is no risk to be blocked with hyperlinks from company. I mean, antivirus. Yeah, there is definitely. So I will not hide any important information behind the link. You're just making them a favor. If you want to add a link, add it. And then if they click and it doesn't work, they will Google it if they are really, really interested about the topic. Uh, it's okay. Don't hide important information. Oh, you want to know about me? All the important things are at this link. Yeah, that thing will not work. Uh, mhm. Let me see. Uh, this is another interesting one. Julio asked, "How would you set a CV for a role in which you have no experience?" Julio, it depends. If the role is an entry level, more junior role, and they don't expect you to have experience, it's fine. If I apply for a role which require a lot of experience, um, and I don't have it, then I'm in trouble. I mean, I should not apply in the first place because it's very unlikely that they select me, and so I'm wasting my time doing it. I believe that what you might hint to is I'm just a new grad. How do I build my CV? Right? I don't have experience. Focus more on what you have done till now. So your studies. Maybe spend a little bit more explaining what are don't give them the list of all the exam you pass. They might not be interested, but maybe touch on the key areas, maybe explain a little bit about your thesis, what some important projects, if you have any part-time work you have done or any contribution to any project, add those, right? But if the it's an entry level position, is expected that you don't bring a lot of experience. Uh, okay. The live ask when I should follow your recommendation. I mean, not everyone can quantify in term of number how much impact they have had in the project. Absolutely, this is a very difficult one, right? So you can't expect to be able to quantify everything. What I'm saying is, where you can add numbers, might make a difference, right? Don't use subjective terms. Saying a lot, for example, can mean 10, right? If you tell me I manage a lot of people, I don't know if you refer to 1,000 people or to 10 people or 200 people, right? So we're anytime you can trying to quantify. There are things that you cannot quantify, and then you might have to explain in other ways your impact and your contribution because you don't have numbers. Vencinson asked a smart thing. What about to make a CV for ATS and the second one to deliver to a human recruiter after first step? It's not going to work. The recruiter will get it. Will not. That it's not that the ATS will tell you good job and then the recruiter will just ping you. The recruiter will just look at the same CV the ATS look for. Okay. We take the last few and then we move into the CV review. I want to be sure we have enough time there. I received, I believe, six. I listed only five. I'm not sure we will get to all of them, but if not, we will do another one in the future, and I'll start from them. Um, Um, Sulas Daily, does the tool used to create a CV play an important role? No, I would say you should just export a PDF and send it. So which tool you use to create a PDF is your decision. It should be what I would say is should be easy for you to create and maintain it. So if you use LaTeX every day, go for LaTeX. It should be easy to export, should be easy to update, and should generate something that is readable and is actually communicating your experience and your knowledge. So if it's LaTeX, it's perfectly fine. In some tools, you have more templates than others, but that said, any tool is good. Uh, last from Frappo, then I move into the review. I promise. Frappo, if there was a year in which you joined multiple companies because you couldn't find one you like, would you put all of them or just a summary of what you did in the year? You are supposed to put all of them because some company will do a background check even if you pass all reviews, and omitting important information like some companies you work for might actually be considered a reason to not proceed with the hire. Um, so you should list all of them, either explain why. Maybe it's a good way to use the summary, right? Or maybe you can attach a cover letter to explain that, um, because it's something that, yes, will ring a bell, or would just be considered a red flag from many hiring manager. They don't know if it was you or the companies. So it's not a very conventional situation. Um, so you might need to manage the communication on this point to be sure that it's not misunderstood. Okay, and with this one, we can move into. Let me see if I can move this here. Let me present. Mhm. Okay, can you see it? I can zoom a little bit more. Okay, thumbs up. Okay, so let's start from the first one. And I also want you to read through it. I'll give you 10 seconds as any other recruiter, right? So you get 10 seconds to just look through it. I'll take the same time. I haven't opened them, to be fair, because I wanted to give you my exact immediate reaction without looking at them ahead of time. So we'll get a few seconds to look through it, and then we will discuss it. I also ask people to provide me with some roles they might want, so we can not only review the CV but also try to see if it's a match for that specific role. Let's start. I hope you can read it. If you cannot, just let me know. I can zoom in. Okay. Let me- Hmm. I'm trying to find a way I can increase the size. It looks like just I have to zoom in like this. No. Is it better? Okay. Great. Okay. And that's it. Ready? So, um, first thing, I like the template. I believe this is a standard template. I like it. I like the font. I like the it's very well readable. I like the format. Um, I hope this is not no, but might not be a problem with an ATS. But anyway, in general, I like it. Although, as I said, I'm not focusing on the graphical part. Let's start from this. Someone might argue that this is spending some real estate, some of your budget, right? Because imagine everything you put here is consuming your budget. You're spending your budget to see something that may not be very relevant, right? Might not make the difference here. Honestly, I, li- I kind of like it. It's not a lot of. I mean, I didn't spend more than the time read it and then move on. It's not really important for the role, but I kind of like it. But this is more a personal reaction. Uh, in general, yeah, don't spend too much space on the page just to write things like your motto or your way of living, right? It's not really crucial for the role. The hiring manager or the recruiter will get nothing out of this. uh okay, summary. I like the start over 8 years, right? So it's clear to me that this person has 8 years of experience, right? Let's start with numbers. I like it. A rationalist who loved board games, cars, and Excel. Okay, now we get a little bit less into important signals here. Uh, we will see maybe the job role required to be a rationalist. But if does not, here I'm not getting much. Most probably Excel. Yeah, there's office here. Okay, it's again, this person is trying to express their interest. Um, proven ability to develop innovative solution and absorb new technology to address complex business challenge. Um, I don't know where my buzzword button is, but this sounds a lot of buzzword, right? Proven ability to develop innovative solutions. um, let's get into the next part of the CV, and I'm curious to see what are these innovative solutions, because by reading this, I really don't understand what this person is referring to. Um, and I'm curious to see which complex business challenges he or she solved. Right. So let's move on to see this detail. Um, Professional experience. Okay, this is the name was redacted. Project manager's role. Good. Spearheaded development and integration of a new company-wide management system. It's good. It's explaining what the scope is. I would say could have benefit from explaining a little bit more about the impact of this. I mean, without the name of the company, maybe this was obvious by having the name of the company, but which management system um, was used? What was the how many people first, how many employees in the company were impacted, right? I spearheaded the development and integration of a new company-wide management system for 1,000 people. All right, that's very cheap, easy to say. It's immediately telling um, what the impact of the work. Supervise and optimize IT systems. Now, supervise IT system, I'm not sure what it means. Okay, optimize IT system also is not clear to me what this person did specifically in this one to facilitate a smooth digital transformation. I really don't understand. This sentence for me is really cryptic. I can't understand what this person has done. Right? Maybe uh, a little bit more about this would have been help in explaining what the person did. Successfully implemented 3 plus industry 4.0 machinery project. Okay, I'm not uh, very knowledgeable about this Industry 4.0 machinery project, but I would expect, sorry, that this, I mean, at least it says 3 plus, has some numbers, and I believe this refers to something specific. I should look it up, but let's say that I would most probably look it up if this person overall profile was in line with what I was looking for. Efficiently manage 5 plus high value logistic project for top tier international companies. Okay, if you say top tier international company, it would be nice to say the names, right? Maybe they were just redacted, but at least in the name will be very impactful, because if they are top tier international companies, people will know them, right? So it will be very useful to name them. Ensuring excellent stakeholder relationship. Hmm? And delivering detailed progress reports. Now, this doesn't say much to me. I mean, ensuring excellent stakeholder relationship is something any project manager should do. Now, the question is, why is this excellent? What did this person do to make it excellent? Maybe he set up some best practices to manage stakeholder relationship, or maybe the stakeholders were very difficult, a lot of them, whatever, right? It was very complex, but this sentence doesn't say so. It's look like the only concrete reference to their contribution is delivering detailed progress report, which doesn't tell why this was difficult, which doesn't tell why this resulted in an excellent relationship. I think this again could benefit, this second part could benefit from a little bit more details. Okay, let's move on. I believe this was redacted. I don't know if this was the same company or not, but head of production office led and motivated a team of three, fostering a collaborative work environment. The first part, I like it. I mean, the motivated is imply by leading, right? To me, if you lead a team, you also want, it's part of your responsibility to motivate. So already led a team of three would have been sufficient here. I think it's good. It express exactly what the scope was. Fostering a collaborative work environment. Again, uh, I haven't met a lot of managers or leader who were fostering an uncollaborative work environment, right? So I would say this is implied by the fact that you manage a team of three. Uh, if there is any other meaningful impact, it should be listed here. Led a team of three who was responsible of doing these few things and manage 100 deliverable over a year. I'm making this up, provide some numbers. It's obvious to the reader what your impact was. Well, this second, especially the second part, looks a lot of buzzword and boilerplate stuff, which doesn't really provide information on what you have done. Introduce a Scrum management approach. This is good, right? It's saying this is very specific. Done this, driving productivity and improving office efficiency. These are the kind of things that are difficult to measure. So while this might look a little bit of vague, I can buy into this in the sense that, yeah, I mean, productivity and efficiencies, especially for internal processes, are very difficult to measure. So overall, I like this sentence. Develop comprehensive production reports and tracking system to enhance operational visibility. And also, this one looks good. Maybe a little bit. I would elaborate a little bit more on what it means to develop production reports, because it's not super clear to me. But I'm also not familiar with this type of work. So maybe it's just me not being familiar, and this would be obvious to others reading this. Okay. And the last role, production office employee, manage order entries and production cycles within a company management system. Okay, maybe adding some numbers, how many order entries, how many cycles, what was the impact of this work. Um, Sometimes also explain the complexity of doing this at that company. The company was very large or was international, or this was distributed across 4 time zone, right? Elaborate on why was difficult, right? It's it might not be obvious. Um, it's a good way to sell this as you accomplish something difficult. Demonstrated technical expertise by programming laser machine. Okay, it's interesting. Very specific. Is just making clear that the candidate has this expertise. Okay, moving to the education, bachelor degree in management engineering. I don't know what L-9 means. Uh, Maybe a little bit more information like when was completed. There is no date. Was it completed or not? The name of the university. Maybe that was redacted, but the name of the university. Um, I would say that maybe the thesis, if you really want. I mean, this person has only, I mean, already 7, 8 years of experience, so maybe that's already far enough that you don't want to mention it. And then 3 certification, very good. With the dates, skills, I like it. Okay, I mean, overall, I think the skill part is good. At, to the point, expressing the different skills. So, yeah. So overall, I would say there are some areas of improvement. I would spend considering this person as um, 8 years of experience. Maybe I would elaborate a little bit more on this part to make it more appealing in terms of contribution. It's currently a little bit light, so I think it's could benefit from elaborating a little bit more here. Um, I think that the other part looks okay to me. So yeah, this is more or less my feedback. Let's see what people say in the chat. Let's go with this one. So Joe is asking if a person decides to stop the career for 1 year to, for example, move to another country, learn English, take professional certification, and works in a totally different field, what would you put in a CV? It's better to avoid putting the experience. It depends, Joe. I would say if you have done that because learning the language was important for your career, you should mention it. So the focus maybe is not on the role you had. You are, I don't know, a waiter or a taxi driver. Uh, Maybe the focus doesn't go on the role, but you can say you can add a section like um, living abroad to improve my English. And then you can say, while I was there, I have done, I took different training, and I also took a number of different jobs just to uh, I mean just to be able to live abroad. You can say so. I would mention it honestly, but focus on what you got out of that period, not on the fact that you were a taxi driver and a waiter. Let's see what Simone is asking for. If I studied and worked for many years, now that I just finished my university career, should I put the graduation date in CV, or it could end up in being evaluated as a fresh graduate student and not as an experienced person? No, you should. You should. I mean, when I see a lot of those cases, people maybe taking, I don't know, 6, 7 years completing their bachelor degree because they've been working. And so usually the things I see the date, I go up, I see the experience, that okay, this person took a little bit longer, but he also accumulated some work experience. So you should definitely you're not going to be evaluated as a fresh graduate. Um okay, Julie is asking if you're working in a company that changed name, spin off, but same business. Your role is the same. How do you manage it in the CV? Is your, I mean, at the end, is your story. A CV is about storytelling. So don't lie. Please never lie. Okay, but you can present the your career in the way that is best at serving your purpose, which is to get hired. So let's say that you, if it doesn't matter, you can also just rename the company with the new name, and that's it. uh, or you can just create a new section and add it there. Yeah, that is your decision. Something funny happened to me. I worked for Alcatel Lucent, and I added that to LinkedIn, and then suddenly Alcatel Lucent was acquired by Nokia. And so now, if you look me up in LinkedIn, it looks like I work for Nokia. I've never worked for Nokia, but they took over the company in LinkedIn, and now it's just there is no way for me, or maybe there is, but I don't care honestly. It's far enough back in time that I don't care. It's looked like I work for Nokia, so I got some time requests from people asking me about Nokia. And I have to say, I'm sorry, I haven't worked for Nokia. It's just LinkedIn messing up my experience. Um, okay. Um, cool. Okay. Back to this one. Um, there was also a role. Let me see a role. Okay. The role is a Google role. Uh, Technical Program Manager 2, Capacity and Constraint Management. Okay. So let's look into the minimal qualification. Bachelor degree in a technical field or equivalent practical experience. Okay. Well, although I believe that looking at this, the technical mean more STEM kind of degree. Um, Management engineering might not truly qualify, but I think overall this is less important. It's still the degree in engineering. So I would say the person will pass this first one. 2 years of experience managing projects. Here we have three, so it's good. Experience with two or more of the following: server hardware and software, network hardware and software, data center infrastructure and operation, or mechanical and electrical systems. Okay, now I have to say that out of my mind, I can't recall seeing any of this in the CV. But let me go back. Oh, maybe this is related to mechanical engineering. This is good. As I said, I'm not familiar, so I might just. Hmm. Okay, I'm not sure. I mean, to some extent, I'm familiar with this type of role. Um, so I believe this might not be completely in line with what the candidate has, or at least it's not obvious, right? Um, So if we look at the preferred qualification, the 2 years of experience managing cross-functional, cross-team projects, um, I think the cross nature of this sentence is not obvious here because, well, you can imply we can just imply that the the these 2 points are uh, cross-functional project, but it's not obvious. So I would just, before signing this CV, I would just make clear here the impact. For instance, if I'm applying for this, I would say this was impacting 10 different functions across the company. So no discussion. This is right, um, a cross-functional experience working with AutoCAD. I haven't seen any AutoCAD, not even here. So I would say no. Experience with network capacity planning, and this is again a no because I haven't seen any capacity planning. So now we could also read all this um, to get a better sense of what the role is about. I'm kind of familiar with the team, so I'm not reading all of it, but I think that overall this candidate might be a little bit more on the mechanical industrial side, and what they are looking for is someone which is at the intersection of uh, software and hardware engineering and uh, more of, I believe, more of the building kind of engineering. So imagine a person who is responsible for, and this should be here, right? This person will be responsible to work on design and deployments of Google Cloud Partner, right? The trusted partner Google Cloud, which is a specific project, you can look it up, is public. Uh, and they will be responsible to execute capacity and constraint like power, space, cooling, operation network. So you see, this person will must probably be one of the person designing a sort of small data centers which are dedicated to customer, which is what the trusted partner Google program is about, right? So I believe that what I see here might not match what they are looking for. So this is my but again, I'm not very familiar with the industrial part, so maybe I'm wrong. But this is not obvious that this person has the skill. So if this person has those skill, they should be made much more obvious by reading this part, especially if they want to apply to this role. Okay. Uh, cool. We can move on with the second one, and I don't know how many. Oops, that's interesting. I can see the face, but I can't see the face here. Okay, interesting. Okay, so this is the CV. Uh, Before getting into this, Randall says, any words about applying to America? I honestly, my I'm here implying that this person gave me this role just as an example, and they're not planning to apply for a US based role. If they do, then they either have to be exceptional at that role or already have some sort of a visa to work in the US. Uh, I mean, it is possible. Google is sponsoring um, visa and green cards for uh, non-US citizens, but is not a super easy process. So I would say this is just adding additional complexity to it. Okay, let's look at this other CV. Let's take a minute. Um, Okay. Uh, this again is a single page. Um, person started. I mean, the first experience is 2020. Wow, 7 role in 3 years. There must be some in parallel. Uh, like those two. Okay. Um, First thing, there are almost more letters in the name of the company and role and dates than in the description of what the person did. So this is a little bit unbalanced in the sense that your CV is not just the list of the companies you work for. The CV is primarily about explaining people how amazing you are at doing something, which is the job they are hiring for, right? So if you just list the company you work for, I'm taking to the extreme, this is not the case, but without spending enough time or enough um words to explain your contribution, right? It's not going to help. So, for instance, the first one, which is okay, is almost, I mean, that's what, 6 months. It, the only thing I can do is to look up Anima to understand what they do. But founder, startup, maybe add one single line about some achievement. What did the company achieve in the last 6 months? Uh, is the founder the only person working here, or they hire people? Did they get any client? Did they get any project delivered? Did they get any sponsor or investor? Um, this doesn't say anything about what the company achieved, right? And so my first reaction is that they haven't achieved anything, which most probably is not true. They have done something if they're still alive after this many months. It's a pity that they're not saying anything here. Um, the other one, which is going partially in parallel with this since January, um, product manager, management of the strategic area of the company. Um this doesn't say much, right? What is the strategic area of the company? Except if the person wanted to say the strategy of the company. Uh, yeah, otherwise, any area to some extent is strategic for the company. Otherwise, should not exist. Um, this sentence is really cryptic. I can't understand what the person been doing. Uh, Organization of the team. First question is what does it mean, and second is how big is the team? Organization of a team of 10. An organization doesn't sound right to me. What does it mean, organization? Right? Is about designing an organization, or is about being an administrative, a project admin for the team? It can be many different things, right? So it's very difficult to understand again what was the impact here. Um, Programming of budget most probably should be managing of budget. How much? You don't have to give the exact number, but is the budget about, I don't know, the Christmas dinner, or is 100 millions, right? Because it's kind of imply uh, very different skills, right? So again, I from this one I can't get the impact, the responsibilities of this person. Should elaborate more about and doesn't mean adding one page just for this, but tell me what was the impact as a product manager, right? Tell me which are the products you own, which are the products that were launched here, what was the impact, how many users is internal, external. Tell me about the product. You are a product manager, right? Oops, sorry. Let's move on. Product designer, which looks like was the one before being a product manager, design, prototyping, and engineering of products. How many products, right? Um, how many people were using those products? How many revenues were generated by those products? You don't have to say all these things, but say at least one of this, right? So you just help quantifying what your responsibility was. Design of museum and public spaces. Good. This is a little bit more specific. I start getting what this person was doing. Uh, but maybe you have a couple of museum you want to mention as your highlights, right? Like contribution to the MoMA museum, right? I designed one room on the MoMA museum, right? Or I designed this the entire museum in this small city in Italy. It doesn't matter, right? But at least you give some clear hints to. I mean, I said it doesn't matter. It matters, but you want to express to some extent what you have done. Right? Management of juniors, not sure it means. In general, I would not use the word juniors, not in this form. Um I would rather say managing the work of four other colleagues if it was not people management responsibility, but was more a mentoring, coaching kind of thing. If it was instead proper people management, I would say managing a team of four people responsible for XYZ. Uh, let's move on. Okay, because okay, this one was well is overlapping with this one. Okay. Um, management of design of a work hard from sketch to placement, yada yada, organization of event, sales of work, collector, a little bit more detail on the responsibility. Again, there is no clear impact of the work, right? And I move on. Here you have project management. Welcome, I guess, is a project. Lamp ramp stage. I don't know. This is a typical example that you might want to add the link, right? If this is external and is public, add the link. Maybe there are also credits. You have your name on it, and so this is going to be very helpful because it's easy for people to understand. Same here. It's public, most probably public thing. You might want to add the link. Okay. Uh, but I have to say, although I'm not an expert, this looks to me a way more clear than things like this that are at the top that are much more uh, difficult, more generic, right? They're not really explaining what the person did, right? They're too generic. By the way, you see what happened when I do this, right? An ATS will just literally freak out trying to parse this document. Um, okay. Same. I think I'm looking at this part. There is a little bit more details about the responsibility. Again, they lack numbers, and it's very difficult to understand what the person did, or what the impact of this person. I mean, design of accessory for mega yacht can be anything. It's good to know, but how many accessories, which type of accessories, or I don't know, any information that can help people understand what the person was doing. Moving on. Okay, this person was Started design engineering. Uh, he's actually still doing this master. Um, these projects are good. I mean, I can see a lot of projects. Maybe it's worth for a CV like this to have project just move on the side and said, okay, this is the list of the key projects I contributed to, or try to explain better here what the projects are, or at least add the links so people can click and actually see the work, especially because this is work for designing, and so maybe seeing the results of the design might be very useful. uh, okay, this is the bachelor degree. Okay, some additional courses which are interesting. The part on the left side, uh, professional skill, technical expertise. What does it mean, right? This really means nothing. Technical can be anything, right? So either you replace technical with something specific, or just remove it. Understanding of UX. This is very vague. Understanding is a very weak word. Understanding of UX, I can tell you I'm not a UX expert, but I understand UX as well, right? So maybe you want to say something more specific. If you're exceptional at designing UX, for instance, uh, understanding here is more on the user side. As a user, I understand a user experience. I mean, or someone who just work very little on product design and product development can claim the same, right? Understanding of user experience. Business savvy. This is a big buzzword. Don't say so, except if you can prove that you are savior than the average person, right? If you can do that, business savvy. I've been in for, I don't know, on Forbes 30 under 30. Maybe that's, yeah, okay, okay. You are yes, but at that point you just say I've been on Forbes 30 under 30 list. That's it. Critical thinking again means very little. This is a perfect example of soft skill that either you can really demonstrate you have above the average, or you should just remove them. This is a little bit borderline because it's less of a soft skill, but I would appreciate understanding what it means. Research skills means very little. Problem solving does just no. Ability to prioritize. I would expect the majority of the people to be able to prioritize. Um, Strategic thinking. I thought I already saw this one. I don't know. It was critical thinking. Again, doesn't really accept if you put some evidence here that you are exceptional at this. Doesn't really help. Communication skill again is an expectation. So the majority of this are not professional skills. They are soft skills, and they are not really telling anything useful to the person reading this as a hiring manager, right? So I would either suggest to remove them or just keep the one that are really the top skills, and at that point just provide evidence that those skills you are very strong. You're very strong on those skills. And now we got the soft skills. So why communication is here and team player is here, right? Leadership, curiosity, empathy, trusting, clear communication. Oh yeah, you have communication here. Strategic thinking, you already have it here. Able to prioritize here again. Interesting here with the US spelling and here with English, British. Problem solving, I thought was here as well. Yes, possibly. So no, those two really need to be completely revamped. Those two section. Program skill most probably should be software skill or something like that. These instead are more precise. I think they're good to stay. Languages are good. Okay. Uh, I'm done with this one. I would do this. I guess this is the last one we do for today. So um, let's just look at the role. This person gave me three roles. Just check the first one. Okay, it's Google. Product design. Okay, product design engineer Pixel phone. Okay, it's very specific. The minimum qualification as mechanical engineering product design. Okay, this the candidate, the person has product design in his CV. 1 year of experience in product design engineering. I guess the entire engineering as real. Where is it? I can't see any product design and engineering here. Um, so I would say it's already missing engineering in sense of really hardware. That's what they because this is about Pixel phones, right? Yeah, in fact, they ask as a minimum qualification experience in designing mechanical component like plastic metal parts. Maybe the person did something in this project, although I've seen here more of the museum public, maybe something in this project, but it's really not clear. So if the person wants to apply, they should just be sure that they mention this part. um Experience using computer aided design tool. Is any of this NX, Creo, SolidWorks here? No. Maybe they are similar, but they ask specifically for this. So it would be worth investigating. So I would say just moving here in the minimal is going to be very difficult for the candidate to get to the next step because they already miss or it's unclear if they have some of the minimum qualification, which would make them not reach the next step. So they will not get forwarded to the hiring manager. Um, yeah, so I would not read this considering that they yeah, and just looking at this, I can see how they don't have this, or at least it's not clear. That's the usual problem. Maybe they do, but they're not saying so, right? That's why it's so important to be sure that your CV is very, very clear and use similar terminology to what is asked in the job description. Okay, I would say we can stop here now with the CV review. I'm sorry for the others, five or six, who send me the CVs. I hope I could have done at least three or four. We stop at two. If this was useful, let me know, and we can do a second one. Maybe not the next one. A little bit, I would say, in maybe in a month or two, we can do a second round and get more of this review. Let me have a quick look at the question. Mm, Joe asked regarding the startup, if you are the founder, do you put the startup achievements only or also your role? I mean, if you're the founder, you said what you have done, right? I said, I don't know, I created a company and hire the first five employee or secure funding from these two large venture capital funds or got a private investor to invest in my company and bootstrap the company. You can either, right? I mean, at the beginning you must probably focus on your contribution. As you move forward and the company is successful, you want to focus on the impact of the company, because at the end, if the company reach that impact, is primarily your contribution. Randall said, I'm not sure if I can put the name of the customers in the CV. It depends. Some customers are uh, sensitive and you can't. Some others are not. Now, it largely depends what you want to do with your CV. If you put it public for everyone to see, is going to be a problem. If you only submit to a single company because you are applying for a role, telling them that you work with a company, might not a big issue. But of course, you have to, I mean, you have to double check and be sure that if you're working, I don't know, for the government and you're working on some secret project, you might not want to mention the project in your CV. Uh, let's see. Uh, mhm. Okay, let's get this one. I think is the last one. Do you like two column CV? I think they might look better, but ATS don't really love them. No, ATS will hate them. As I said, I'm not the best person to ask for graphical feedback. I personally like them, but mine, the last I did is a single column one, or maybe not. Maybe it's two columns. I have to double check. But I like two columns. I said it's not the uh, if you can do it one. I mean, the one we saw, the first one was pretty nice and was single column. So if you can find a good template, make your life easier. Uh, okay. So I think we are at time. Two things about the next live. If I can, I'll try to get a second one scheduled for this week on Friday, usual time, so 9 p.m. And I'm trying to convince um, a former colleague, a program manager working at Google, to come and tell us about his career and answer any question you might have, because he has a little bit of a different background from my background. And so his way to program management at Google had a completely different path, was more customer facing. Also, when he got to Google and then he changed program management. So I would love for him to share with you his career path, so you can get more inspiration about different ways to become a program manager. But I'm not sure he's available, so he will let me know in a couple of days. And if he's confirming that, we might do it this Friday, and will be recorded as usual. After that, I'm going to be on vacation for 3 weeks. So it means that we will not see each other for 3 weeks. Don't forget about me. I'll be back and we will start again uh, end of June or first week of July. And with that said, thanks everyone. Have a wonderful night and see you either here or on Telegram. Thank you.